Let's bake some bread for our family. It's easier than you think it is, and I'm gonna show you how. Welcome to At Home with BK. My name is Brittany Kelly, and this series of my channel, I share with you all of the things at home that can help support your family and make your family life more productive and better. And today we're doing that with some homemade, fresh loaf bread. Your family deserves fresh bread, okay? Get rid of the store-bought bread. Let's make some homemade bread. It's not that hard, I promise, I promise. I used to be intimidated when it came to baking, but now I feel like a baby pro, and my kids love it. So let me help you do the same thing. And if you're already a pro, there's always room to learn, and there's always room to share in the comment section. So when I first started baking, like I said before, I was really intimidated. I thought I did not know what to do. And then I discovered on Instagram this wonderful woman, this family. Her name is Liz, and her Instagram channel or handle is The Food Nanny. And she was baking and baking all day with her family, and I felt really inspired. So I had to get her cookbook. In fact, I have all of her cookbooks. And this one is called For the Love of Kamut, and today we will be using Kamut Flour. This is an ancient grain of wheat that is grown only organic, and it's been the same way since ancient Egypt. So if you are concerned about wheat or it doesn't agree with your system as much, you might want to try some Kamut flour, because Kamut flour is a little bit easier to digest. It has a higher amount of protein, it has a little less gluten, and it just tastes so good to me. So I love it. It's actually kind of a yellowish tint. So if you're watching me put it in the ingredients and wondering why the flour is so yellow, it's because it is Kamut flour. And I'm using the recipe For the Love of Kamut. Definitely check out her website if you want the full book. Obviously, this is not sponsored. I am just a fan. I actually changed a couple things in this recipe. It's just for preference, but you do it the way you want to. After you've been exploring and playing with dough and ingredients, you start to kind of switch things up, try things out a little bit differently to your own taste and to your family's taste, and that's kind of the fun part of it, you know? All right, let's get into making this bread. I'm talking too much, sorry guys. Okay, so now let's make our sponge for our bread. First, I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of active yeast and add it to our large bowl. Then I'm gonna take 3 cups of warm water, just warm, and add that to the bowl as well. Now we're gonna add the sweetener. This recipe normally calls for honey, but I'm going to be using coconut nectar as my sweetener this time for this recipe. But you can use whichever one you would like. And now I'm gonna add the 4 cups of flour and then mix together. Now we're gonna cover this with plastic and leave it to sit for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, our sponge is ready. So we're gonna add 2.5 more cups of Kamut flour, as well as another 1/3 of the sweetener, and in this case, again, it's coconut nectar. We're also going to add 3.5 tablespoons of olive oil or butter that is melted if you prefer butter, and a pinch of salt, about 1/4 of a teaspoon. I recently got this olive oil. It's the Blueprint one by that guy, Brian Johnson, who spends $2 million a year on measuring himself with 30 doctors in order to anti-age, in order to be 18 forever or something like that. Now, I don't want to be 18 forever, but 25 or 30 would be great. So anyway, I bought these bottles. It actually tastes really good. So this is the first time I'm using this olive oil in the cooking, but I did buy this recently and I use it on my avocado toast all of the time. It's it's actually really good. One of the best tasting extra virgin olive oils I've ever used. But again, this is my first time just using it in baking just because I just had it handy, so I use this. But also you can use melted butter in this recipe. I just didn't feel like melting the butter, and honestly when it comes to baking things from scratch, I really just try to make it as quick and easy as possible for myself. I have 4 kids, guys. Now, one thing about kneading this dough is that you're gonna have to do it for 5 minutes over a floured surface, and you wanna do it kind of fast. You don't want it to be sticky. You want it to be pretty firm, and just keep it moving. Your arms do get a workout, so you are definitely multitasking with this one. Now, the thing about making homemade bread is that sometimes people believe it's so time consuming. Probably this 5-minute kneading is the most time consuming part. Mostly you're not even with the bread, you know? Like when you're frying something or cooking something on the stove, you kind of have to be with it and move it around and such more. With bread, you're kind of just letting it do its own thing. So while it's rising and such, you can do other things. You can do your laundry, you can scroll on social media, you can do whatever else you need to get done while you're home and just let it rise. So to me, it's not that time consuming when you think about it, because you just kind of let it do its own thing, right? While you're busy multitasking. I tend to set alarms because I will forget about my bread if I don't. So I suggest doing the same thing, set an alarm and everything. So you take the same bowl and you put a little bit of oil at the bottom or butter, and you take your bread and you just place it there and cover it back up to let it rise for another 30 minutes. It's gonna be yummy! It's gonna be yummy!
Just subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe to the channel. So I've sprayed the 2 9-inch pans with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm gonna split this in half. Now I'm gonna let these rise for a little bit longer. I played with my kids for an hour, and this is what the bread looks like now. The oven was preheated to 400 degrees, and I dropped it down to 350 once I placed the bread inside for 25 minutes. Let it cool down. It's perfect. Look at it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of At Home with BK, where we made homemade bread for our family. Definitely check out some of my other series like Parenting and Pregnancy, where we talk about early education, teaching these babies how to read, or Mom Chat, where we get into the deep dive topics of everything going on with parenting and motherhood. I'll see you guys in the comment section. Bye.